Good evening, everyone. Let me go grab. Actually, we don't need to grab my book. So, today is the live discussion for Win and Truth. I was able to read a big chunk of it today. Did I finish it? No, I have like 200 pages left. I was doing really good until it was time for me to for my kids to do some schoolwork and stuff, and yeah, so time just got away from me. But I do have thoughts about it, just based off of what I've read and everything. But first, here is the synopsis of it, which I will read it aloud. So it says the long-awaited explosive climax to the first arc of the New York Times best-selling Stormlight Archive, the iconic epic fantasy masterpiece that has sold more than 10 million copies from acclaimed best-selling author Brandon Sanderson. And then it goes on to say, Dalinar Kholin challenged the evil god Odium to a contest of champions with the future of Rashar on the line. The Knights Radiant have only 10 days to prepare, and the sudden ascension of the crafty and ruthless Taravangian to take Odium's place has thrown everything into disarray. Desperate fighting continues simultaneously worldwide. Adeline and Azimir, Zigil and Vinley at the Shattered Plains, and Jasna at Thalen City. The former assassin, Zeth, must cleanse his homeland of Shinovar from the dark influence of the Unmade. He is accompanied by Kaladin, who faces a new battle, helping Zeth fight his own demons, and who must do the same for the insane herald of the almighty Ishar. At the same time, Shallan, Renarin, and Relaine work to unravel a mystery behind the Unmade, but I can't, but Ado Mushroom. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce that. And her involvement in the enslavement of the Singer race and in the ancient. Oops, sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. And in the ancient. Sorry, my mom's calling me. Sorry. But let me continue. So it says Eshnor and her involvement in the enslavement of the Singer race and the ancient knights Radiance killing their spren. And Dalinar and Navani seek an edge against Odium's champion that can be found only in the spiritual realm, where memory and possibility combine in chaos. The fate of the entire Cosmere hangs in the balance. So, from what I read, when it comes to Win and Truth, I was definitely into it. When we first read it, we pretty much get like a recap of what happened in the previous books. We go to a replay of. Let me just go get the book. Let me just go get it. Oh. All right, I'm back. So we pretty much get a replay of what happens regarding Gavilar, which is, he was once the king. That's Dalinar's brother, right? So we get a recap of what takes place prior to Gavilar's death. And I feel like it was definitely more detailed. There was some things that we didn't know this conversation per se that took place prior to Gavilar's death, prior to Zeth killing Gavilar. So I found that interesting, but I loved the recap. I feel like for a lot of us, it's been a while since we've been into, within the Stormlight archives ourselves. Like last year, we read all the secret projects or whatever, so we got a little bit of a taste of the Cosmere again. But this is Stormlight, so it was like on a whole another level. I was even starting to remember all these different characters and their aliases, because all these characters have hella aliases. So it's hard to keep track. And so the pacing, let me get to the pacing of it. The pacing was good, but I think it could have been better. I say that because I feel like as I was reading this, which I need to change my mark on here because I was listening to the audio, I felt like it was dragging just a little bit. I felt like there could have been more editing in the process, the editing process. But, I've said this before in my reading sprints with Bree and stuff, like everything Brandon Sanderson does is intentional. And so I had to keep that in mind as I'm reading these thousands of pages. Did it have to be that long of a book? Not necessarily. I think there could have been things that could have been taken out, but I can't. I'm not mad at Brandon. I'm not mad at Brandon Sanderson. No, I'm definitely not mad at him. This world that he has created is very elaborate. So many details, so many things that we need to know. But it's just a shame that we're not going to get this particularly until like in the next 10 years or something crazy. We're still going to have a taste of the Cosmere and all these other books that's going to take place. I saw that on his YouTube he discussed that he's going to be writing a book for Ghost Bloods, which you have Maraise and everything in there, which has a lot of stuff in here as well regarding Maraise and Shallan. So I like that. I like that we're going to be getting more regarding Maraise and the Ghost Bloods themselves. I like that in the other books they were either featuring Dalinar, Shallan, Jasnah, all that. This particular book is mostly about Szeth, and he's on a pilgrimage. And I think it's all about his mental health. Like, that's what I took from this book, and I love every single moment of it. Like, he was never this type of guy, like, brutal killer or whatever. And even Kaladin even said, like, he's like Tien. He's just like my brother. Like, literally, this is what he says. It's like, he was never really a killer. They made him into that, and supposedly he sort of liked it. He wasn't like Tien in that sense. Szeth started to like the killing and the challenges and whatnot. That was the only difference between Szeth and Tien. But when Kaladin gets to know Szeth even more, Kaladin starts to think about a lot of things and his circumstances himself, people around him, Dalinar, Adolin, Shallan, Jasnah, Bridge 4. People can't stand Moash. So there's that. I honestly, like, if I had to give the book a rating, I would give it. I'll give it a 4-star. I can't give it a 5 because I feel like I feel like in a lot of books there's going to be flaws. Nobody is perfect, but still a 4 rating is pretty good in my book. So definitely a 4 rating, even though I only have like 200 pages left. I'm still like, I feel like after like my experiences of reading this book for a few days now, like straight, I'm like, yeah, it's a 4. It's not a solid 5 for me. Not this one. Now, regarding all the books combined, which one was it? I had a question, not a grade. It says, does this new installment of the Stormlight Archives measures up to the rest of Sanderson's works? That was like my main question. And I was thinking about this all day, especially as I was reading the book. I'm like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the previous books in this series, they read differently, if that makes sense. Or maybe I was just more interested in these characters, like, but because let me be honest with you. After what Szeth had done and stuff like that, I didn't care less about Szeth whatsoever. I'm like, oh my god, he's a fucking killer. I hope whatever he gets or whatever. But now it's like I can't even say that because he was facing his demons, and he's still, as he's on this pilgrimage in Wind and Truth, he's still going through it. And I feel like this is so realistic, especially in today's society, because a lot of people don't, or we talk about our mental health now, but even back then, it seems like we had to be quiet. Like, we couldn't say that we were feeling down, we were feeling bad, or feeling down, or whatever. I think now that Kaladin is the one joining Szeth on this pilgrimage and listening to him and giving him advice and some guidance, it says a lot. It says a lot about the world and how we may need that one person or these people in our lives that will help us realize certain things, that will be along the journey with us in fighting our demons. Oh, hold on, y'all. Sorry, my daughter came in. Um, so I began to start liking Zeth even more. There were points in this book where I enjoyed Dalinar and Navani entering the spiritual realm, um, which for a second, I completely like forgot about all the different realms until I got back into the Cosmere. I'm like, oh yes, yes, that's right, that's right. Um, and so I was like, all right, let me get back to my bag of remembering everything that took place and everything in the Cosmere. I feel like it's been a minute. So I even took some notes from notes and looked at the notes that I had prior to this book when Bree and I had did the year Sanderson in 2022, I believe. So yeah, when we did the Brandon Sanderson read along. So literally, like, so everything exists, like in the Cosmere. Everything exists within three realms. Three realms. The first one is the physical, where we live now. So that's the physical realm. And then two is Shazmar, the cognitive realm where minds protect or project their impressions. And so it's a realm of thought, right? And then spiritual realm is where Dalinar and Navani venture to in order to and seek. They're looking into the past in order to help them prepare for what's to come and to prepare for the future. Because that's what history does. I feel like I can say this. I can't say this enough. Like history repeats itself in so many different ways, in different shapes, and different forms. But it's our responsibility to learn from history. And for some reason, for some people and for some governments, they just don't get or they don't grasp that concept. But anyway, the spiritual realm is every event in the past that still echoes there. And it says it's a realm of our souls, which links to our past and to other people. So there was moments where wit was brought into it. There's a lot of things that Dalinar and Navani were seeing in order to prepare Dalinar for the duel that was going to be taking place. So they were preparing. Let me see. I also took some more notes as well. But I would love to know, like, what's y'all's perspective on this book? Like, did you enjoy it as much as the other books? Literally, I'm not going to say that I wanted to DNF it, but it's like I had to, like, step away from it a few times because it was just a lot. And it's like, oh, dang, it's been a minute because I remember reading all the other books with Bree and everyone, and we got through them. But this is a longer book. I'll say that. But I feel like those other ones had a different feel to them. I can't like describe like how I was feeling, like how it felt for me while I was reading this book, and then how it was when I read the other books those 2 years, 3 years ago. Yeah, I'm still contemplating about everything of what I read. I'm curious to see what happens in the last 200 pages, which I cannot wait to get to. Which once again, I'm sorry that I didn't finish the book. Like I have literally 200 pages left, and so it is what it is. And that was poor time management on my part. Just a lot was taking place within the past few days, and then just so much stuff took place. So that was my bad on my end. But I will, from now on, I will finish the book prior to our live discussions for sure. But I overall, from what I've read, like I said, I just have 200 pages left. I enjoyed the book. The pacing, it could have been better, but I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed every single moment of it. I'm still loving the fact we have Nightblood. But they bring up Vasher, which he goes by another name. And Vasher's from Warbreaker. And Nightblood from Warbreaker, even though Nightblood is called by different names and stuff like that. Have World Hoppers in there, So it was nice to be able to revisit this world again and to see all like some of my favorite characters. Shallan is up there as far as one of my favorite characters. Jasnah is also up there. Dalinar, he's up there. Kaladin, he's up there, right? A lot of the Spren is up there as well. Like, I love the Spren, and Lift is in there briefly for a little bit, nothing too crazy. And we all know Lift is one of Brandon Sanderson's favorite characters. This book was just really good. I enjoyed every moment of it. I'm glad that within the book itself, it has the map again. So that's a plus, which is right here. I like the fact that in the back of the book, it has endnotes and stuff. It says, this completes the first major arc of the Stormlight Archive and is the midpoint of my grand 10-book plot outline. It says, I will return to Roshar with book 6 in the near future. Thank you as always for joining me. Journey before destination, Brandon Sanderson. It says book 6 in the near future. And when I read that little snippet of the ending of this book, I'm like, maybe we don't have to wait 10 years. I feel like he's going to surprise us again. Like, literally. I feel like with how Brandon Sanderson is going within these past couple of years, especially with the Secret Projects and us backing him and having these backer kids regarding the Cosmere, I don't think he wants to lose his buzz. I feel like he doesn't want people to eventually lose interest because there's so many new fantasies coming out every single year. And so I feel like in order to constantly compete and stuff like that, I feel like he constantly has to produce more books in the future and stuff like that. He can't have like a year or 2 or 3 or 4 year gap, right? He just has to continue on, which I would love to see this being adapted like so freaking much. I feel like the production, the technology included within producing this adaptation would be absolutely like fire, for real. I'm just really excited to see what is to come regarding this series, regarding to Adolin, Dalinar, Shallan, the Ghost Bloods, Kaladin. And I feel like also with Szeth, like from what I was reading, I feel like he was also depressed. And he was just like, I just want to get through this. And, if I die, I die. Which I like the fact with Brandon Sanderson, like within these books, he's expressed concerns regarding mental health, especially when it came to Shallan as well, which I feel like Bree and we both agreed that we just love that representation of showing how mental health is very important, and it's still important to this very day. It will always remain important. So he really puts a lot of thought when he writes his books. And I appreciate that when it comes to Brandon Sanderson, 100%. I know like some people did not really enjoy this book as much. I've seen some reviews. I was a little bit confused with some of them, but I'm like, okay. So this one says I'm looking at the reviews. It says it's a 3 star. It says it's good, very readable, somewhat bloated, too long, which I also stated, and it's the only of the books in this series I would say that for. Lots of world building exposition that was irrelevant to our characters, but it works as a solid mid-series extravaganza, as an interesting plot and satisfying character moments. Let me see. This is a 1 star. Sanderson, I'm begging you on my knees, pleading with you, please hire another editor. And this is a 2 star. So I'm okay. Literally, people are having issues regarding the editing. I had a little issues, but it wasn't a huge big deal for me. I still gave it a 4 star. This is a 1 star. And it states, I waited 7 years to read this book. 7 years. And I am not going to finish it. Sanderson betrayed me. I came to this novel for fantasy. I came for Kaladin fighting. I came for Dalinar uniting. I came for Shallan lying. In this book, there are moments, but there are few and far between, outweighed by what feels like Disney style gay romance. Oh my God. What is wrong with this person? Jed? Okay. Ugh, okay. It says, I came for fantasy, not politics. What the fuck? Okay, this is one of the things that has been all over Books Talk. Reading is political. There's going to be some type of politics in it. Any type of fantasy book, there's going to be some fucking politics. Sorry, excuse my language. I'm sorry. I'm just completely upset with this bullshit. I came for fantasy, not politics. Every type of fantasy book, it has something to do with the kingdom or whatever, which has something to do with politics. Hands down, gods, goddesses, literally. There's always wars, always something. The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, that's nothing but politics. Nothing but politics. Sword of Kaigen has some political shit in it. Literally. Like, the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee has some political shit in it. It's all about politics. Like, you are not, unless you read romance or whatever, when it comes to politics or a fantasy, there's going to be politics in it. Point blank, period. But anyway, sorry. It says, I came for fantasy, not politics. Whatever your political leaning, this is not what Stormlight was all about. I will be honest, I cried. This hurt so bad. Get a grip, Jed. Anyways, Smitty, which I like him a lot regarding his reviews. It says, first off, waiting a decade for the new installment is criminal, but Wind and Truth being my most anticipated read of the year and the ending of the first era of one of the greatest fantasy series of all time, it delivered. It delivers so well. All the main books from Stormlight intertwined and came to a head in Wind and Truth. I won't go too far into spoilers, just know I'm excited for Mistborn Era 3. In the meantime, so much sleep lost, no regrets at all. Until next time, Stormlight, Journey Before Destiny. So there is that one. This is, somebody said something about Dune. I don't know if I'm interested. It's okay. So this one says, the Reformed Reader. It says D and F. My conscience and convictions disqualify me from continuing this book. Same-sex romance is an instant DNF for me. Disappointing, but on to something else. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay. Some of these people, they don't need to have reviews. It says, edit. To clarify for those intolerant of Christian values, it is quite a bit different in intentionality when Sanderson mentioned same-sex relationships in previous books. What I mean is that, yes, there was a passing reference to a couple in Oathbringer, and you can definitely see Renarin's preferences. The differences lie where in Oathbringer, he mentioned this to make the world seem more realistic in scope. For everyone saying that I don't want homosexuals to exist, that's absurd. I don't see an issue in referencing that homosexuality is real in the same way that I don't have an issue when Brandon Sanderson talks about abuse in his books. It's real, but it isn't glorified or promoted. What I can't in good conscience permit is when the promotion of this relationship becomes a prominent plot point, storyline, or focal point. I don't want to be entertained by the promotion of sexual sin, just like I don't want to be entertained by the promotion of blasphemy. Sanderson even admitted that he was taking a risk in that regard by including it. A risk that, from my worldview, was not worth taking. This is his freaking book. He can write how he wants to write. He wants everybody included in this book. I like the representation. All the representation that he shows within this book, in his books, I appreciate. So it is what it is. I was trying to see like what these 1 or 2 star reviews are saying, but it just seems like a lot of them are just BS at this point. Like, there's some valid points, like saying that it was too long, but that all those Jed and the Reform Reader, I don't really agree with. But anyway, this one says DNF at 22%. This was a mess. I didn't want a Marvel movie. I missed book 1 and 2, Sanderson. I'm so confused. It's like, what did you expect? Like, for this book, it's like a tweener, I feel. To be honest with you. Like, what did you expect? Or this is going to be more like informative than anything. So I don't know. I love the book. I love the representation that was within the book itself. My only complaint was just it was a little bit long, but it is what it is. It's Brandon Sanderson. Because the whole Stormlight series is like there are some thick books. So it's like, get a grip. Overall, like I said, I love the representation in this book. I like that we talk about Zeth. Like, for one, like I said, I didn't give a crap about Zeth at the beginning, but now I appreciate that we have the storyline of Zeth and we know more about Zeth and his background and his childhood, right? And we go into his past and whatnot and what he has been through. Which, I feel like, to each his own. Like, in the real world today, we judge people based on what we have heard about or we've known about that person, but we don't necessarily know them. And so I think Brandon Sanderson was smart with that. Like, we all were just like, F Zeth, he, whatever comes to him comes to him. But now it's like it all comes in for full circle, and I'm beginning to understand Zeth even more about him, as a person. And I think that's also how Kaladin was too, right? He began to understand him, which I feel like that's what one of the big plots of this book, in my opinion, is about. Let me know y'all's thoughts about it. Overall, it was just a really fun time with this book. I'm excited to finish it. I have 200 pages left, y'all. 200 pages left, and I'll be done. It's probably going to be the longest book that I read this year. It will be actually the longest book that I read this year. With all these freaking pages. But it was a nice ride. I'll give that. I'm sad that I'll be exiting the Cosmere world after I finish these 200 pages, after I completely finish this book. I'm going to be a little sad. But I know that it will continue on. Like, there'll be more books and fillers that we'll get to read. Mistborn Era 3 and Ghost Bloods and all these other books that he's going to be writing in between before we get to a next Stormlight book. But overall, it was really good. Just a little bit more editing would be all right with me, but if not, it's okay. It's not like a huge thing for me. It's not like a say all be all thing. Once again, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, which is still a really great rating. There was things that could be improved, but that's my own opinion. A lot of people said this was just like awesome, which everybody is bound to have their own opinion, and I think this book was still pretty fantastic. And I'm going to continue reading Brandon Sanderson like this, since it wasn't as edited as much as it was or whatever. It wasn't a make or break for me, so I still really enjoyed this book. But I think that is it. Like, I'm trying to think, is there any specific things that I may have missed? But I feel like that was the gist of like what I was reading. There were some things in here that may not have necessarily had to be included, but I appreciate every single moment of it. I appreciate every single word that Brandon Sanderson has written within this book. But I'm definitely looking forward to reading more Brandon Sanderson and seeing what he has for us for the future. But that is it. That is my live discussion for Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. This was just a fun time. Thank you all for joining me, and I can't wait to hear y'all's opinions as I have more like reading sprints or whatever down the line. But I hope y'all have a great night.